We are a nation that surrendered in Afghanistan. We are a nation that allowed Russia and Ukraine to fight, killing hundreds of thousands of people. It would never have happened with me as your president. Likewise, the horrifying attack on Israel would never have happened. Iran was broke under the Trump administration. They didn't have the money to fund Hamas or Hezbollah and all of the other instruments of terror that they used to finance. But those sanctions were lifted by a corrupt Biden administration.
That's former President Trump ripping into Biden's foreign policy failures while rallying thousands of supporters at yesterday's annual NRA meeting in Dallas. Former Green Beret Commander, Congressman Michael Waltz, sits on the Foreign Affairs and Armed Services Committees, and he joins us now. Congressman, thanks for being with us. You heard the former president lay out all of the places in the world where America's presence seems to have rolled back over the last just couple of years. What do you think's the difference? Like, why? How has this happened over such a short period of time?
Yeah, well, a couple of things, Will. One, you can have the most technically superior and capable military in the world, but if our enemies and our adversaries believe there's weakness in the White House and they don't believe we have the political will to use it effectively, then you're going to see what we're seeing right now, which is our enemies absolutely on the march. Secondarily, President Trump nailed it. The signal that Biden sent the world with the Afghanistan debacle set off a whole chain of events to lead us why we are today. And then thirdly, his people around him, I don't think it's him calling the shots anymore, but Blinken, Sullivan, and others have an appeasement first approach. They're the kid on the schoolyard getting picked on and pushed around by the bully, and their approach is to always go back to the table with the bully and say, can I give you a little more lunch money? Is there something else I can do? Can I make some other form of concession? That's what they've done with Iran, and now Iran is flush with cash and have their terrorists threatening to wipe Israel off the face of the earth. I mean, none of this would have happened, and that is absolutely, I can back it up with fact after fact that none of this would have happened under President Trump.
Yeah, I understand that chain of events starting with Afghanistan, Congressman. Explain to me Ukraine, though, because it's the outlier in this. That's where appeasement doesn't seem to be the strategy, where a continuous funding of the war effort in Ukraine is part of the Biden administration's policy and positioning.
No.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, respectfully, Will, disagree. Putin invaded Ukraine with Crimea in 2014 under Obama and Biden, and he got away with it. He got very little pushback. In fact, Obama refused to give Ukraine any type of lethal aid. President Trump was the first to actually start sending in javelins and send in the Green Berets, I'm proud to say, to start training the Ukrainian military. And then also President Trump started holding Germany and the Europeans to account. So what did Putin do? He bided his time. It's no coincidence that he went for round two in 2022 and thought he could get away with it just like he did under Obama. No. And then in terms of the strategy since then, Biden has had a too little, too late, trickle it in a strategy that has bogged us into a quagmire that Putin thinks he can eventually grind out and win.
No doubt, I understand the motivation you just laid out for us and the opening that Putin might have seen both under Obama and then once again waiting for that window of time when there's a return to that same level with Biden. But I guess what I'm having trouble rationalizing, I see the withdrawal from across the world. I see the predictability. I see the appeasement in so many areas. And then there's Ukraine. And I hear you say trickle it in. And even if Putin goes, well, now's my opportunity, it seems to be the one bombastic position held, well, not just by Democrats, by Republicans as well, but held by Joe Biden.
Well, fair, but he talks out of both sides of his mouth. He says, Ukraine, I'm gonna give you arms, but I'm not gonna give you the arms you need to win. I'm gonna give you arms, but you can't target Russia's energy infrastructure. I'm gonna demand the American people, because it he thinks it works for him politically. I'm going to demand the American people dig deeper in their pockets, and Republicans are stopping it. But yet I'm not going to say anything to the Europeans and demand they dig deeper in their pockets. So it is, he's talking out of both sides of his mouth, because he does think it makes him look tough in the wake of the failures in Afghanistan, the failures in the Middle East, and the failures everywhere else in the world.
Yeah. You and I have had some fascinating conversations. By the way, I had a debate with Rebecca Heinrichs of the Hudson Institute on the Will Cain Show about why America's presence is so important, including Ukraine, for someone who's been skeptical like myself. And I will say this, I'd love to hear more from President Trump on what his position would be going forward on Ukraine. I think it's... Go ahead.
I think it's pretty straightforward. He's focused on ending the war rather than some vague notion of winning the war, which Biden still hasn't defined. So he is focused on driving the two to the table, and that's taking a tough approach with Putin as well as with the Ukrainians to say, how do we get this to some type of resolution?
That's good stuff. Thank you so much, Congressman, for your perspective and putting light on President Trump's as well there. We'll see you next time.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.